word of thanks to everyone for taking the time to join us on this kickoff of the virtual access cohort. We have, just an amazing group of people on the phone from 7 different systems, including Sutter, Providence, Memorial Hermann, Aurora Health System, North Shore, Northwestern, and Rush. And so just an amazing group of health systems, and we're thrilled to be working with all of you. So thank you for that. What I'd like to start with is just to share with everyone why we're coming together today and hope what we'd like to get accomplished over the course of the next hour. And so there's a couple of things on our agenda. One is we want to make sure that all of you know who Avia is and what we do and why we exist and how we hope to support you. So for some on the phone, this will be old news. For others, it will be new news. And so I just wanted to spend a couple of minutes up front on that particular topic. Secondly, we wanted to at least introduce how we've thought about the topic of virtual access to date, acknowledging that part of our process is really understanding your system's specific needs and considerations. And I think that actually bridges to the third topic, which is we'll talk a little bit about our process of working with all of the health systems in this cohort and give you a sense for what you can come to expect from us over the coming weeks. And then lastly, to the extent there are any questions or issues that folks on the phone have, we want to make sure that we leave some time for that at the end and can do any follow-up after that. So that's our agenda for the call. Does that make sense to everybody? Since I told you to put it on mute, I didn't expect a lot of responses, but please do speak up if there's any issues. So thank you. Good. Well, let me start with an introduction, at least to the Avia team. And again, some of these folks you will have met in the past, and I can assure you that all of them you will interact with in the future. So I'll start by introducing myself. I am Eric Jensen. I'm the Chief Operating Officer with Avia. I was also one of the co-founders of the business when we started this a couple of years back. We've got several members of our provider solutions team who really drive forward the cohort process with us today. Ariana Klitzner and Meredith Freeman, who you will all be working very closely with. And then we've got several folks from our client experience team here with us as well, Peggy Baxter and Jenna Bezdek. Linda Finkel is the last person on this page, which I'm not sure that she wasn't able to join us on this call today, but I know that she is eager to really spend some time at all of the health systems on this phone call and get to know your team and leadership. And so she joined us as president back in September. So this is a portion of our team, but again, folks that you should expect to interact with in the future. So now that's the who, and it might be worth spending a little bit of time on the what. So, Avia was really founded with the view that emerging technology plays a really important role in helping healthcare executives to accomplish their transformation agenda and initiatives. And we had heard repeatedly when we had started this journey of building Avia that healthcare executives were getting multiple phone calls a day from companies that all kind of said the same thing about doing pop health and patient engagement, and, but that they really didn't know which ones had a really substantive solution and which ones were offering up vaporware. And so a big part of what we wanted to solve for was to bridge the gap to the entrepreneurial world and the emerging solution world in a way that started with each health system's problems as opposed to starting with solutions and seeking problems that that solution might potentially address. And so that in a in a nutshell is what our mission and purpose is. As part of that, the other thing we strongly believe in is the power of collaboration, and that by bringing together progressive health systems to work on some of these issues together, that more can be accomplished, that decisions can be made faster, and the decision to move forward into the emerging technology space can be de-risked. And you'll notice here, just as a very rough sketch, an overview of the process that we use in running a cohort. And the whole idea behind the cohort is that we start with a specific defined problem that we hear from our membership is an issue that they are working on. And we run a collaborative process that gets really clear on what are the use cases that each system is working through, what are the specific business requirements, what are the organizational constraints, and at the same time, looking out in the marketplace and running filters or stage gates against all of the various solutions that are in that space, with the idea of really getting down to the one or two best solutions that make sense for the group that we're working with. Maybe two questions I will preempt at this time, just because they come up frequently, and then we'll dive into the topic of virtual access. The first is, do we look at solutions from more established companies? And the answer to that is absolutely yes. So if a larger player has a solution that tackles the particular issue that we're looking at, we do look at those. We involve those companies or solution vendors in the process. But we acknowledge, and part of the way that we scope the solution or the problem spaces with our members, we acknowledge that more of the innovation tends to be happening in some of the emerging companies. So that's kind of question one. And then the second question is, well, do you just come to one solution at the end of the process? Or what if my particular health system needs are different than another's? And the answer to that is sometimes we have different, multiple solutions come out of this. And each system has the right but not the obligation to ultimately go and implement the solution that comes out of this process. So anyway, there might be more questions on folks' minds, but if we can maybe table those or set them aside, or even feel free to send them into your go-to meeting, we'll reserve those and address those at the end of the session. All right? So with that, what I'd love to do is turn it over to Meredith Freeman to talk about the virtual access cohort that we're kicking off and how we've thought about this topic.
Thanks, Eric. Hi everyone, this is Meredith Freeman. I've been the one behind all of those emails and invites, so thank you all for accepting and forwarding, and we will be in touch again after this process, or throughout this process, and I really look forward to getting to know each of you. So as Eric mentioned, the cohort process, beginning with the problem definition and really addressing a challenge. That's really what brings us to virtual access today, which is that we've heard from a number of you and really out and have seen from the market that there's there's an ongoing challenge related to opening up access and providing convenient access to patients while still maintaining a level of efficiency for providers. And that's really what brings us to our topic today. So virtual access as a name is really sort of an innovative mashup of terms to describe what we're calling online or app-based channels that use algorithms to treat low acuity conditions or route patients to the appropriate in-system provider for treatment. And there may be several images of technologies popping up in your head. We typically get people associating this topic with Teladoc or general direct-to-consumer telehealth companies, or there's some overlap with Epic and EMRs. There's triage related. There's Zipnosis related, and I want to let you know we are actively exploring a number of things, and I look forward to explaining where virtual access fits in the broader scope of those offerings today. So. To explain virtual access, which some folks have gotten a chance to dive into, it's helpful to start with the context of how a user or how a patient begins their journey and may begin their journey to coming into the health system. So to start with a typical low acute condition, I have a sore throat. And so if I, as a patient, have a sore throat, my first inclination might be to go to Google and to type in, here's what I'm experiencing. Am I going to die? What do I need to do? But I'm going to use Google as my guide to what happens next. So if it turns out that this might be something where a provider is going to be helpful, I'm probably going to look for who can see me first or where I can go to get treatment the quickest. One of those, I typically don't have time to wait in a waiting room, and I'd rather not leave work. And we're seeing a growing trend of people willing to pay for convenience. So walk-in clinics, retail clinics, even being treated online comes at an out-of-pocket cost that patients are willing to pay to get a quick answer. And so as we look at the options that exist to provide that convenient access for patients, we mentioned the retail walk-in clinics, the Walgreens and CVS's of the world, but if the patient is already online, there are a number of companies that are very prevalent in the online space that are marketing directly to consumers to provide online or video conferencing and treatment and diagnosis, and those are the direct-to-consumer telehealth providers. Those are a great way to treat patients conveniently, but we want to make sure our cohort is focused on optimizing both the patient and the provider experience. Our focus is to work with you all to ensure that both your brand and your visit margins are maximized in one way from a business case, but also from a patient experience case, that you're able to provide that kind of convenient access at the lowest cost to the system. So direct-to-consumer telehealth providers offer convenient access. Your brand would be, but at not the most compelling business case for your brand. It's usually commingled with that direct-to-consumer. Epic, the way to address that, Epic is moving into this space, or other EMR vendors, and MyChart and patient portals offer the ability to provide patients convenient access to their trusted provider and your brand, but it requires that they know your provider and that your provider be sort of consistently online. The efficiency that comes with an ongoing email dialogue that may or may not be reimbursable or may not lead to a visit, or an online video capability that requires an offset call center or a full-time FTE to be fully staffed, does come at a cost to the system. But we've started to see, as you move up this access, that there's a way, there's a group of emerging solutions that are presenting themselves in that online space that expand the reach of your brand and reach patients where they are online and help route them to your system for either quick treatment or smarter routing to the appropriate provider by using algorithms to gather their symptoms and then make the best decision possible. And that's really where we're focused in this cohort. So we think there are a number of upsides to this in terms of benefits to the patient for convenient and timely access to care, the ability to improve throughput and margins in a clinical setting, whether that's an ED, a primary care, or even some specialty care clinics. To the health system overall, we see opportunities to balance capacity across multiple providers, being able to capture those patients online and route them to the person who has the most availability, and also the ability to promote and expand that brand reach of your system. And with these in mind, that is again where we come to this asynchronous algorithm-driven virtual access cohort topic. And I'll pause there to see if there are any questions or comments. Anyone? Bueller? With that, I'll take that as a good sign, and feel free to email us at any time if you have questions, and we do plan to dive into more detail in on-site meetings coming up. But as we discuss this topic, I did want to call out that there are a number of considerations that come to mind. There are a number of factors that come into this topic, including, how will these solutions link to my EMR? How can I complement existing strategies, brand strategies, or ways that we're using patient portals and MyChart to expand access to our patients and provide access to our providers? How do we support standards of care and ensure that our protocols and our expectations for providing antibiotics or managing other prescriptions are included in the algorithms that may be involved with virtual access? What are the implications for reimbursement, and how does this fit into the broader telehealth space? These are all questions we really look forward to diving into in more detail, and would look forward to and ask you to be very forward in what comes to mind and what you'd like to explore as part of this topic. And we will, again, dive into more detail during our on-site meetings. So with that, it brings us to the logistics of what it means to actually gain that insight from you all, and how we're going to use that to move through the cohort process. So I'll introduce our expert in this space, Ariana Klitzner, and she will explain what it means to participate in a cohort.
Hi everyone, great to be on the phone with you today. As Meredith mentioned, my name is Ariana, and I've been part of the building of this cohort process and been working on it over the last year, so I'm very excited to share it with you and share some of the learnings we've had throughout the process. On the next slide, what you'll see is an overview of what we're about to undertake together and over the next couple of months. And, I think just to underscore some of the things that Eric mentioned at the beginning of the call, the real goal of this process is a few things. The first is to really work on your behalf and make sure that what we're bringing forward meets the needs that you and all your systems have to solve the problems that you're facing. The second is to leverage the power of this group. Several brains are better than one, and I think we can learn a lot from each other and share across the cohort. I think there's also opportunity and leverage in our interactions with the companies towards the end of this process from the perspective of pricing and implementation that I think will really be beneficial to all of us. And I think the third is, how can we help you through this process as much as possible, making sure that we help bring the right stakeholders to the table, that we can bring additional information about, as Meredith mentioned, what's happening in the policy arena or what's happening with the broadest landscape of solutions possible, so that when we get to the end of this, you have the best fit solution in the most efficient way possible for your system. So to do that, there's really three big things we're going to do together. The first is the first blue bar you'll see, which is provider onboarding, and we're right at the beginning, in the middle of that today with the cohort kickoff call. what we're really trying to do here is make sure that we hear your voice through this process. We hear your needs and collect what's important. And, that starts today, but the real fun of it happens when we come on site and meet with you and dive even deeper into the functionality and other requirements that Meredith just outlined on the slide before. And we do that through a few different ways, and we'll talk a little bit more about it later, but we talk to many of the stakeholders who are involved in the process. We see what things are like on the ground today and what's already in place so that we're not duplicating but rather complementing what's already in existence. And the third is we bring the full group together to talk about what the opportunity is for the system and make sure everyone is aligned on the path moving forward, which we've found to be, very powerful. I think many of you are on the phone today because you're doing work on this topic at your system already, and I think allowing us to plug in and align with that will be great. Once we have that information in place, Avia will go out into the market, and to be honest, we've really started this process already, but what we'll do is take what we hear from you, what's important to you, and put it up as a filter against basically every solution company that's in the market. We'll narrow it down to the ones that best meet your needs, and you'll see at the top on the very right, the Solution Showcase event, which will be your opportunity to come together with the solution companies that are sort of at the top of the list based on your requirements and interact with them and really get to know them well. So I think the last thing I'll say is the goal of this whole process is to help you get to the best decision. And so the other thing that we'll be doing along the entire way is pulling together the pieces that will help you build your internal business case for using a solution, whether that includes clear problem definition, clear stakeholder identification, clear identification of the target audiences and the metrics you're looking to move, the ROI of the solution, implementation plan, and. And we've seen that, through this process, we'll collect much of that information and we'll work with you to make sure you have that in place so you can move forward. As Meredith mentioned, we've done this a few times and we've learned a few things through, and we want to make sure we share those learnings with you so that you can benefit from and get the most out of this process. I think the top line here is that we can find the best solution for you in the market, but if the right team isn't in place or the right people aren't at the table or the right conversations haven't been had, it doesn't matter how good the solution is that we bring forward. And so the things you'll see here on this page are really meant to set you up for success at the end of this process. So the few things you'll see here, the first is participation in the event, in the different milestones that we saw on the last page and that we'll cover again before we close today. The goal of each of those is 1, to make sure your voice is heard at the beginning of the process, 2, to make sure you understand the landscape and are making the best choice possible for your organization, and 3, so that when we get to implementation, all the right pieces are in place. Here at Avia, we have a saying that we probably use more than we should, but we call the last mile is the first mile. And so making sure that whatever we'll need to have in that last mile of implementation, we're really thinking about now in that first mile, whether it be the right stakeholders, the right budget in place, the key decision makers, etc. Next, what you'll see is a list of the team, and we'll get a little bit more deeply into that. But what we've tried to do is identify the stakeholders who we think will bring value to the process and bring the perspectives that will move us forward. So what you'll see here is a list of the folks that, at least on our end, we've identified as key of importance. There's some on here that I think will be of no surprise to you, like a telehealth sponsor or representation from IT or clinical leadership. There's a few others on here, like the marketing contact, which we've uncovered through our research thus far to realize that because there's a brand element of this, it really would be beneficial to have a marketing person involved. And towards the end, you'll see there are some of those last mile folks listed, and we want to make sure that we engage users, IT, contracting up front so that when we get to that process, especially that contracting process, we can make it move as quickly as possible. I think the last thing I'll say about this roster is, this is a suggestion. We recognize that every health system is organized slightly differently and the roles are called out slightly differently. So we put this out for you to really use as a starting point for deciding who from your organization is part of the team. And I think many of you are on the call today because you fill one of these really critical roles. The last thing I'll call out on this slide is there's sort of a light blue category and a dark blue category. The lighter blue category is those that we expect to be involved on a more regular cadence to make sure that the process is moving forward throughout. Those in the darker blue we've labeled are more to contribute to the process as needed and as you would like to. So we'll make sure and we'll work with those at your organization to make sure that you're in the loop throughout the whole time, and just ask you to join in when you think your expertise will be most leveraged, and to share your perspectives both up front and throughout the process to make sure we get to the right answer. The next slide is those key dates that I was talking about, and I think many of you received some calendar invites from Meredith and may have said, "What are these for?" And don't worry, we'll send them out again if you need them. But these are the 4 key dates that this whole group will be together again over the process. The first that first line on there, the onsite kickoff, is what we're really excited about. Northwestern, we've already gotten to be on site with you, but we look forward to coming on site, and as I mentioned before, that's the time where we'll really dive deeply with you and your team. We'll meet together as a group, we'll talk to individuals to get their perspective, and we'll get a peek at what it really looks like on the front lines right now so that we know what you need. The May 15th call is a fun one because it's where we share the list of companies who have come forward as the sort of top contenders. They're the ones who will have gotten the RFP, or the RF Innovation as we like to call it, where we'll really evaluate them quite deeply through their submissions, through reference calls, through a tech diligence, and a deep demo with them and their team. But this call is where you get to say, if it's down to the wire, which are the priorities that we should use to make sure we make the right sort of honing decision for you. So you'll get to learn about the companies, which is really fun, and you'll get to make sure that your vote is included in the final decision. The Solution Showcase prep call is also really fun. That's where we've narrowed the field down to those last 3 to 5. And the goal of that call is really to give you a sense of those companies and really get your baseline understanding of them up, so that when you are in Chicago with us on the 17th and 18th, you can really dive in deeply with them and engage with them on a deep level and get to know them really well as a solution. Which brings me to the last 2, which is the dinner on the night of the 17th, which is a chance for all of you to get together and learn from each other, as well as the Solution Showcase event, which is the day for all of you to be together and interact with the companies. Typically from that day, we find the 1 or 2 companies that rise to the top, and what Avia will do from that point is do an even deeper set of diligence on your behalf to make sure all your questions are answered, and from there we'll help finalize the business case we've been building all along.
The only thing I would add to that, Ariana, is having done this a number of times, it's always interesting to see how the dinner goes when we bring all of you together. And we're oftentimes kicked out of the restaurant at the end of the evening simply because the richness of the conversation is such that people really want to continue and interact with peers at other systems.
So, this is Meredith. I'm happy to jump in here at this point because these cohort milestones, as you've seen from some of my emails, are really some of the most fun parts of this entire process. And just to recap what we've talked about so far, Avia's entire business model is to partner with you to help you make sense of the market and find tech-enabled solutions that solve your that address your strategic challenges, solve your problems, and are really designed to be the best fit for you. And the way we really get to know how to do that search and what criteria it means, what best looks like is by getting your input, and that's really where this on-site kickoff comes in. And then from that moment, from that time that we get to spend, we get to have some conversations with key stakeholders, make sure the entire team is on the same page, and we get to dive into some of those considerations, whether it's policy or preference for how this links to an EMR, how your providers want to be able to provide care, opting in to services, opting out. There are all sorts of really exciting things to learn about your preferences, and this on-site meeting will dictate then all of the content that gets shared back to you all in the following calls after that, leading into that solution showcase. But as you may have seen already from some of my emails, there's a lot of information, and there's a lot that we'd like to be able to share with you as we learn and as we progress through the cohort, whether it's information about policy, interesting articles on the space, updates on content or RFP information, information that the companies give back to us. We'd really love to be able to share that with you all and with your teams. And the best way to do that without completely flooding your inboxes is through Unify. It is a tool we use, and you may be familiar with, that is just the online portal where we'll be sharing information, content, messages, and it'll also allow you to connect with other stakeholders on the line. So, if between systems you find yourselves coming up with the same challenges or tackling a similar problem, you are welcome, and it's part of that collaborative element that Eric mentioned at the beginning that makes this process so valuable. You all have the opportunity to talk to each other about what you're going through, and this portal really allows you to do that without having to know email addresses or coordinate with other folks. So we will be in touch on Monday with login information and a little bit more information about Unify. It's very intuitive. To say we'd give you a training would discredit your intelligence. It is very well designed. So we look forward to sharing that information with you. And as the first exciting thing, this document and this presentation will be available on Unify. And again, we'll have more details for you on Monday. So with that, just want to bring it to next steps. All of this begins, today was the day to get clear on the topic, be introduced to Avia. I'm so glad to have gotten the chance to meet you all virtually. The next step and where the real work begins is with that on-site. But another way to make sure that your system's voice is heard and your preferences are listed and incorporated into the way we're searching the market and helping you build your individual business case is through a survey. It's a very quick survey. We hope it's both quick and very informative. And we'll be sending that out with a link in a follow-up email to this call. So feel free to take that survey, or please take the survey, and forward it to anyone you think is, it can't be forwarded enough. So forward away, go email happy. And then again, strength and insights in numbers. The fact that you all are all on the call together is really powerful, both for you and for the solution process. So, use Unify as a tool for you guys. It's helpful, and also it'll just be a great way to keep fresh on the topic. Your insights that we gain through the survey and the on-site kickoff are really what help drive the content of that May 15th call and the June 4th Solution Showcase prep call. And then we are all really excited about this June 17th and 18th Solution Showcase event. It should be really, really fun and hopefully very valuable to you. So with that, I'll open it up to questions, cohort process, Avia, virtual access, whatever's top of mind. We are here.
And in the absence of questions, we're happy to give the time give back. So.
Yep.
Ariana, has anything come up so far on GoToMeeting?
We don't
Oh.
have any questions in the chat,
Okay.
but you're free to
All right.
enter them in that way.
Anything from the group?
To break the silence, this is Tony. I don't have any questions. That was a nice overview.
Great.
Great.
Thank you.
This is Tom Barnett with North Shore. I think with any specifics into the particulars of the program, we probably get through those with the on-site.
Correct.
I think for now, this was a nice overview, and we're looking forward to it.
We are too.
Fantastic. Thank you, Tom.
All right.
All right. Very good. Well, thank you everyone again for making the time, and we will be in touch.
Yep. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Have a great
Thank
day.
you all.
All right. Take care. Fantastic.